Welcome to Towards 2015, the program to broaden your business perspective in a large market with over 600 million consumers, which is the ASEAN market.
But what an unfortunate to tell that Thailand is now under pressure because the situation has been complicated by two world superpowers, China and the US, playing against each other in our backyard. And their focus is on our region, ASEAN, particularly in Thailand. And on this fragile issue, how does a Thai-Chinese strategist comprehend the repercussions on these superpower games unfolding in this region?
And what is the assessment of the Thai-Chinese bilateral relations, especially in the context of the U.S. Expansion of its powers in Southeast Asia?
Well, I think we are really in a very tricky position right now.
Yes.
Because we have to manage expectations from both countries, both
Yes.
the U.S. and China. For the Chinese, I think Thailand is the gateway for them to pass Thailand to get energy resources from other countries.
Yes.
I mean, in the Middle East and also in the Southeast Asian regions from Brunei, Malaysia and Indonesia.
Yes.
Because our location is a very strategic one. We are in the center of the ASEAN region.
Yes.
So because of our location, because of our strategic position in this region, I think both the USA and China looks towards us as a strategic allies.
Yeah. So you're saying that Thailand in the middle between the world, two major powers, US
yes.
and China. Are we being sandwiched?
Well, in a way we are being sandwiched.
Yes.
But especially right now, I think the US has a new policy towards China,
Yes.
which they call engage and contain.
Yes.
So in the period of Cold War, during the one where USA has conflict with the Soviet Union, the main policy is contain the Soviet Union.
Yes.
But right now, the USA, the United States choose to do both the containment and engagement with China.
I see.
The meaning is that they do not want to only contain and being a main opposition to the Chinese power, but they also want to cooperate with the Chinese to engage the Chinese into the world stage.
So China for the US in this context is both being the enemy and the friend.
Yes, being both friends, but not too good friends.
Yes.
Friends that are cautious friends.
Uh-huh.
Friends where they are also careful with the role of China plays in the region. They don't want China to be too powerful.
Yes.
Or to be a threat to the United States position within the region and within the global stage.
I see. So both containment and engagement.
Yes, both ways.
I see. And this in this context, how Thailand should handle the situation between the two superpowers then?
Well, I think we actually have to set our long-term plan
Yes.
that meets our interests in a long-term period. But this is very hard for Thailand. One point is because we have a lot of political instability
Yes.
in the past 5 years.
Domestically,
yes, we change governments very often, and with the
Yes.
change of governments, sometimes we see the change towards the policies, of the government.
Foreign policy.
Foreign policies. It's very hard for the government to balance these two superpowers, interests.
Yes.
Especially as you mentioned, that we are in the sandwich position. But I think we have to set up a very clear long-term plan that meets our interests.
Yes.
And we also have to be very careful not to be too close to any,
either the US
either
and China.
the US or China. We are
I
good
see.
friends to both of them. This is a strong point of Thailand.
Yes.
Because if we look at other countries in the ASEAN region, there is no countries that can say to have a good relationship with both the US and China as our countries.
Yeah.
Because for the USA, we are their main ally during the Cold War period,
Yes.
as you may know. And we have a very
Vietnam War.
And our relationship with both the US and China
Yes.
Goes through the private means. I mean, we are friends in a personal level.
I see.
For personnel in both a lot of Thai politicians know a lot of high level
Educated.
officials, yes, high level
In the
officials
US.
in the US and also in China.
I see.
And for China, we also we have this feeling of being brothers, for
Personal friendship.
Personal friendship.
The United States itself distrusts China's political positioning on the issue of its claim over the sovereignty of the South China Sea. The complexity has escalated into a different level when the United States sided itself with the Philippines and Vietnam. Now, how should Thailand act under this grim power struggle game?
I think it's quite obvious that for the US, their main allies in ASEAN countries is Philippines and Vietnam.
Yes.
Do you think that's the case?
Yes, especially because Philippines and Vietnam has a territorial conflict with China, especially on the South China
Sea, Spratly
Island problem,
Yes.
which they cannot reconcile their both sides' positions, because for China, they think that this is like an old home for them. They think that South China Sea. You see the name. They always say you see the name South China
Sea.
And for the Philippines and Vietnam, they say that you look at
They claim
the
their own
area,
sovereignty.
and yes, it's in their areas.
Yes.
So for like this issue of the South China Sea, they cannot reconcile the two positions, because they both stand in the opposite side, and both have a very strong feeling of nationalism within this issue. And when you have this nationalist idea, it's very hard for politicians to try to sit down and be calm and talk with each other.
What should Thailand should do in this conflict, or we should not get involved at all? I mean, the conflict in the South China Sea between China and Philippines and Vietnam.
Very interestingly, this year, Thailand is a coordinator of the ASEAN-China relation.
Yes.
I think that they rotate it every 3 years. And for the past 3 years, Vietnam is the coordinator of this ASEAN and China relation. And it only changed to Thailand this year. And I see the active role from the Chinese government that want to engage us into being a mediator in this conflict. Because for the Chinese, they say that we are in a position that we are both, very friendly with the US, very friendly with Philippines and Vietnam, and having a good relationship with the Chinese. But
you're saying Thailand has a unique position.
A very unique position, but it's still very hard for us because of our domestic problem too. We do not have a strong government, and we are not active recently in our foreign policies. One thing is because we still have a lot of domestic issues to manage politically.
So we probably need more coherent, more continuation of foreign policy.
And probably more clarity in formulating our foreign policies. I mean, I understand that it's very hard to have one, especially in this sandwich position that we are in. But we may try to, playing a more active role. Maybe trying to involve both parties, both the USA, both China, and also both Philippines and Vietnam to sit down and to talk about the island. I mean, you don't have to try to push the result out of the conflict. You don't have to say, is it Philippines, is Vietnam, or is it the Chinese problems? But we have to sit down and try to work out a plan that everyone can accept.
I see. China is a crucial part of ASEAN Plus 3, which also includes Japan and South Korea. In your opinion, how will the relations of China with ASEAN Economic Community and Thailand will likely evolve in coming years?
Well, I think that interestingly, there are a lot of interest for the Chinese to come to invest in countries in Southeast Asia recently. But there's always one point that the Chinese usually mention is that countries in Southeast Asia are usually too small
I see.
If you invest in, for example, Thailand,
Yes.
Vietnam, the Philippines, Laos, Cambodia, you can invest, but you have a very small consumption market. Because in every time that you come to invest, you have to have a cost of preparing the investment, learning about the country's laws and regulations and everything.
Yes.
But when you come and you have only a small market, it's
not
hard.
economical.
Yes, it's not economical. But if we have the ASEAN Economic Community, if we are one single market,
10 countries,
10 countries, one single market, I think
600 million consumers.
Yes. I think it attracts a lot of Chinese. It will attract increasing numbers of Chinese investment into the region. I
Yes.
think that in 2015, with the emerging of the ASEAN Economic Community, we can see increasing numbers, probably of Chinese investment coming into the region.
Yes.
Because of this one single market idea. I think at the current point, I think China is now the number 2 investor in Thailand. The first, I think, is the US. And I think China is already taking place of the Japan right now, and it will be increasingly important.
I see. And see, we have FTA with China and Thailand for the past several years, and there's some complaints that Thailand is at a disadvantage because some protectionism in Chinese markets at the local government level. So in your opinion, how this can be resolved?
Well, because the FTA, you have to understand that one side we have the FTA,
Yes.
but one side China is still allowed to have what we call NTB,
Yes.
non-tariff barriers.
Yes.
And I think this point that many Thais have a problem with, But I have to stress that not only Thais have this problem. Other countries also in the ASEAN region, also have this problem
in China.
With China, even the Malaysia, Singapore, Philippines, Vietnam, every country, because China doesn't use this policy only towards Thailand, because the ASEAN plus China, right? But they use it towards every ASEAN nations,
Yes.
and they use it under appropriate. I mean, still legitimate legal reasons to do so under this non-tariff barrier NTB. Yes.
So what should be the solution from the point of view of Thailand, in your opinion?
Well, I think we have to have a more right attitude toward investing in China.
Yes.
I think main problem is that when we go to invest in China, we just know that we have the ASEAN plus China FTA. We think that everything will be very easy. There will be no barriers between trading with China and Thailand, which this is just a delusion, right? We still see a lot of barriers. But to go into China, you have to understand these barriers. You have to understand the Chinese regulations and laws involving the trade, international trade, and coming and going out of goods towards and outwards of China. I think we have to study these regulations, understand the enforcement of these regulations before going into China.
I see.
When Towards 2015 comes back, we'll come in to investigate how to level the playing field, the political playing field in Thailand between the United States and China.